Hello and welcome to episode number 8 of Behind the Whites from us right here at Bolton FM on Bolton TV on YouTube. It's me, Jim Bailey. We've got a little bit of Pete Johnson. We've got a little bit of Chris Ida. Cut me off there, I tell you. Yeah. Can't get the staff. Anyway, we've got plenty to talk about because, of course, hours ago, it was officially fully confirmed before we recorded this on Wednesday, but of course it was all but confirmed last night in the post-match of the Lincoln game by Ian Evatt that Dion Charles would be departing at Bolton Wanderers and moving to pastures new over in Yorkshire. A little bit of Huddersfield Town, in fact, is the destination. It's not going to come as any massive surprise to most Wanderers fans, as this had been heavily mooted for a good few days, and in fact the rumours of him maybe wanting to look elsewhere do spiral back into last season, really, don't they?
They do, yeah.
How much truth there has been to those rumours, I don't know, but you're always going to think back to things you've heard rumour-wise about players wanting maybe to head for the exit when they eventually do. He did release a statement today. I've got a little bit of a... I've not got the full statement, but basically... he loved every minute of playing for Bolton Wanderers, but he did admit, according to Mike Isles at the Bolton News, that his lack of game time accelerated his footsteps towards the exit at the Tough Sheet Stadium.
It wouldn't surprise me. And it's quite funny, actually, isn't it? Because last night we made, between us, we made an editorial decision on air not to speculate about Twitter transfer gossip. Because nothing had come from the club. It was only kind of a rumour that kind of perpetuated in something bigger than a rumour, and of course, pretty much a foregone conclusion. But
as you pointed out last night, when we're on the Wanderers TV, it's the club's official platform. It's probably not the right place to be speculating about rumours.
But it's less than a day after saying there's nothing. There was nothing concrete.
No,
wasn't
there was nothing concrete.
And then obviously today, so we don't have to wait much longer, do we, before we can really talk about it?
No, until of course Ian said yes, it's Huddersfield was quite amusingly remixed with a little bit of the Gorillas.
Yeah, their announcement video.
In the Huddersfield announcement video for Dion Charles' signing, which you pointed out, so I went and had a look at for play.
He's
I like a good bit of socials, and that was a good bit of fun. I'm sure they had a good giggle putting that together.
Yeah, he's been a great servant for the club over 3 years. I'm disappointed to see him go, but if he's going to go, that is the transfer, that's the announcement video that I wanted to go. It was a belter from Huddersfield, to be fair, so I'm glad he's got that kind of... that splash. He landed a bit of splash over there, hasn't he?
It's one of those. If he isn't going to be in the team week in, week out, then and he's getting frustrated and doesn't want to necessarily be in that position. I'm not saying that Dion was like, I don't want to play for Bolton Wanderers anymore. But if he's like, look, I want to play first team football week in, week out, and he wants to go where he's going to be allowed to do that, then I completely understand it. From the club's point of view, if Ian isn't going to play him week in, week out, he is rumoured to be one of the highest earners at the club, and so if he's not going to play every week, then you look to move those players on. And when you are maybe looking to move a player on, either because they're not playing as much as they were, or because they want to head for the exit door themselves, it's never as easy to get the bigger fee for them, is it? Because people know that you're looking to move them on for whatever reason. So I think that's why there's been I think that's why the rumoured fee was 750 grand. I know that it's undisclosed. There's meant to be add-ons. I hate undisclosed fees, by the way. It just does my absolute tree in, because usually it's been reported 5 or 6 times what the fee is, and then the clubs come out and say, well, we're not going to disclose that.
Transfer market will get it for you. Have a look on there. They'll know.
But still, I just think that it should be within the rules of the football leagues that if a player's being transferred, then the fee should be public.
Yeah, they do love an undisclosed fee, don't they, Wanderers? Every single transfer.
And I hate it because I'm so nosy about that kind of stuff. I just want to know. It's like...
Yeah, I mean, from a personal perspective, from a Charles perspective, he's 29. He's running out of time, isn't he, really, to go any higher in his career? I think, and it's something I said when he arrived, really, to be quite honest. I thought he was a striker he'd help us climb up League One, but he probably wasn't necessarily going to be the striker as far as into the Championship. Obviously, he's got 20 goals a couple of seasons gone, so he would argue that he did his bit. He put what we obviously expect from him, but he's at the point in his career now, I think, isn't he, where if he's not going to get a run of the Championship in the next couple of years, he probably never will.
And Huddersfield, you don't want to be sitting on the bench as you're moving into your 30s, do you?
No,
it is what it is. I get it from both sides, and it's sad because he has been a great servant to the club, as everyone's kind of said. Some great memories. I mean, that first goal he scored for us
against Shrewsbury, wasn't it? Peach, wasn't it? Absolute belter.
Absolute banging, and he scored some really good goals for us. He scored some really important goals for us as well. And of course, he was part of that team that went to Wembley and won the Papa John's, which I know some people think, oh well, that's not the biggest achievement in the world, but it's the only domestic trophy I've ever seen Bolton Wanderers lift, so I'll take it. Yeah, absolutely fair play to the old Charles. Like as we said, great servant for the club. He scored loads of goals, and it is sad to see him go, but that's football at the end of the day. And I've seen many a striker come and go, and it's now about how the club move forward. And is there going to be another striker brought in? Is there not? Is that money going to be reinvested in other parts of the team? We'll have to wait and see.
I mean, we've seen a funny little dynamic now, haven't we? Where obviously we've had a couple of protracted sagas now, which with Randall coming in and Charles going out, which I'm sure is something we'll speak about a little bit more. But Randall obviously made the leap from Peterborough to here because he's hedging his bets and thinks that Bolton offers him a better chance of making the step up. Charles himself clearly is playing that percentages game in his head as well, and thinks that Huddersfield is probably correctly so, probably at this stage of the season, thinks that Huddersfield gives him the better chance of making that leap to the Championship. So all these players are eyeing up moves because there are so many big clubs in League One at the minute, aren't there? As we've talked about before, and is a very well established fact. And all of these players who obviously want to make that step up to the Championship, it's a constant kind of percentages game of where they think they're going to get the game time, where they think offers them the best chance of getting promoted and getting to the Championship. So Randall obviously, maybe it's the best move on offer to him at the time, I don't know, but he clearly felt that Bolton gave him a better chance than where he was at Peterborough. Charles, in the kind of domino effects, has decided that Huddersfield gives him a better chance of going up than Bolton does. So it's for a January transfer window, there do seem to be a lot of dominoes falling. I think it's quite an interesting one, and there's still quite a long way to go yet.
Yeah, so plenty of time for some moving and shaking.
If we have the same protracted sagas that, as I said, we've had already, we've probably barely got enough time to get a couple of players to the door because we know how long that Randall wants. So if we take that long again, we won't get a player until 2027.
So much for my thinking, where I thought all the business would be done in the first couple of weeks, and we've had a grand total of one addition so far, and admittedly two departures because Conor Carty, who his contract was due in the summer anyway, but he has made.
He clearly wasn't going to break through to the first team.
No, he wasn't,
and we saw little glimpses of him here and there, and I thought he looked like a decent player, but
is he forever in your heart for the fact he scored against Tranmere Rovers?
Yes,
of course.
Yeah, and it was a banger of a goal.
It was, yes,
banger of a volley, and if as it's turned out, he never really did anything more memorable in a Bolton shirt. You'll always have that, mate. You'll always have that banger against Tranmere that made me very, very happy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of.
We did go on to lose on penalties, didn't we?
We did.
It didn't matter. We ended up winning the trophy at the end of the season.
We did. It was one of them dodgy bonus point penalties, so we drew, really.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are a bit disappointed today that he went and saying, "Oh, at this club at Bolton, we don't really have a culture of bringing players through the academy and into the first team," which you could argue potentially is the case, but. In the case of Conor Carty, he got limited opportunities in the first team. Granted, the one particular chance he had against Tranmere, he took it and played pretty well to all intents and purposes in that game. Scored a great goal. But
it was against Tranmere, who were a league below us at the time. Yeah, he didn't necessarily get the chance to prove it in first team league football. But at the same time, Ian and the coaching staff, as we say all the time, they get that time with the players, seeing where they're up to, knowing what the levels are, and. You just got to assume he probably wasn't going to make the grade. I mean, it's a shame, but that's football.
When you look at the numbers he was running up for, St Pat's Athletic, for Rochdale, for teams like that, he wasn't setting the world light, was he, in the Irish Premier League, isn't it? He's a 21, 22-year-old who's got aspirations of playing in League One. I think you should be making a bit. You'd like to think you'd be making a bit more of a statement for yourself than that.
I don't know.
Same as when he was down in the National League on loan. He wasn't really hitting the numbers, and you're thinking that is a player who needs to be making a step up to League One now. The same way that lad who's been on loan at Walsall from Stoke. His name escapes me.
It's gone out of my head. Nathan Lowe.
Nathan Lowe, and obviously Stoke have recalled him because he fancied giving him a right in the Championship.
Well,
that's the sort of impact you'd be hoping.
Yeah, I've ended up doing the same thing with Louis Barry.
He's had exactly.
A great first half of the season at Stockport, and Villa have decided, right, you're clearly progressing a lot quicker than we anticipated, so we'll call you back. We'll send you out on loan to a Championship club. And then I think we might figure you in our plans for the following campaign.
Well, there was a lot of rumours, weren't there, when Conor Bradley was with us, that during that second loan spell that he was going to get recalled in the January to Liverpool. It didn't happen, thankfully.
Yeah.
But realistically, I wouldn't have blamed them because by the end of that season, we quite clearly had a Premiership right back, well,
Yeah.
Premiership right wing back playing in League One, and quite honestly just running amok. To be honest with you, half the time he was given pretty much a free roll, do what you want, because we know you're quick enough to get back in, and we know you're good enough to make it work. So you get these moments with these lone players. So you want them to go away and do that kind of a thing. You want them to go away and look at the performances and be like, yeah, I can't ignore you now. And Cronkite's probably not.
He's not quite done that, has he? No. So it is a shame, because I agree with a lot of the people saying it's a little bit unfortunate that we don't see the progression necessarily from academy to first team, and it is, again, that's a bit of a sore point,
and
I suppose.
That could have as much to do with the club as it does the talent.
Yeah,
involved,
I don't think Conor Carty was that player. I just don't think he was necessarily ever quite made the grade, but it's certainly something to address in the future, I think.
Part of me thinks, that, believe it or not, there's been another bit of transfer business done today, in that Nelson Company's been recalled from his loan at Accrington. Now, granted, he's a beating player, but he's featured a fair bit for Stanley this season after the second League Two.
You'd imagine that if we're recalling him, we have either had an offer of a higher loan that will further his development better, or we're looking at him and thinking, let's give him a bash.
At this point,
because you've got to bring him back, put him back in the B team, ain't you?
I don't see any problem in biting the bullet and just giving Nelson a game or two for the first team.
Yeah, I'd be completely with you on that, because for me, little let's throw some of the younger players in, or some of those players that are coming through. If when the first team is turning out performances at the moment that is making the fans at times furious, at the best of times underwhelmed, why not throw out some of these players and say, right, well, let's give these a go, let's see how these lads do. Here's your opportunity, lads, go out there and show them what you can do. If it comes to nothing, at least the fans will be like, well, at least he's tried some new faces, at least he's thrown in a couple of young lads. Fans like that kind of thing, and I think that there's a politics to being a football manager these days, in terms of what you say in the press and how people perceive you, and social media, and the way that mentality can very quickly change and very quickly grow if things aren't going so great, as we've seen. But I think there's that element of sometimes you throw in the odd, maybe even cliched thing to just to buy yourself a little bit of slack, buy yourself a little bit of time, get yourself a little bit of, at least people going, well, he's trying something else, he is doing, and you see it quite a lot when managers struggle. Oh, random youth player thrown in. Well, I'll give it youth, because if he comes on and he does well, then everyone's going to be like, ooh. And it's just a little bit of a lift for everybody. And then I can turn around and say, see, don't worry, I know what's going on.
I mean, there's definitely a window there, I think. When you look at Sheehan obviously being injured, Dempsey, I think Sheehan's a bit close to coming back.
I want to see Sharples. I would give him more
he's maybe a bit of a... We can look at him and think maybe Benny's in a similar situation to him. I know he's a little bit older than Sharples, and he's gone and got the League Two experience. But Everett's been, he's shut Sharples in a couple of times, hasn't he? But by and large, he's been fairly reluctant to take that
but when he's come on, he's not played badly in any of his appearances so far. He's come on, and even when he didn't have very much time in a couple of the sub appearances, he's looked like he wants to do something. He looks like he wants to make something happen. He looks like he's eager to get the ball into the mixer, and we saw when he put that perler of a ball in that resulted in a goal. I can't remember which game it was now.
It must have been the Huddersfield game.
Yeah, well, it might well have been, but he pinged in that pearl of a cross, and I was just like, why we're not playing and giving him more time, and maybe I'm not an expert in bringing youth through football teams, but
do not a football manager enough time.
Yeah, well, yeah, but maybe
that's one thing.
I don't want to rush him in and ruin him, or put him in too much of a pressure situation, because let's be honest with you, there's been a few pressure situations when it comes to playing at the tough sheet at the moment, and maybe he thinks, well, maybe the younger players don't need that mentality right now, or maybe they're not ready for that mentality right now. Fair enough, but
we'll never know unless we give him a chance.
I want to see Sharples Ahmed having a bash without a shadow of a doubt, and if we've just brought Cabani back off loan, then I can't see any other reason to do that other than we're putting him in the first team, or maybe one of the lower teams in this division wants to go in.
Yeah, I mean, we've got quite a nice blend now in the midfield, haven't we? Because we've got Randall who's come in and you'd expect probably start pretty much every game. Thomason, obviously, the captain. Matet's in on loan, and to all intents and purposes has been a really good signing. Lolos is obviously a permanent signing and is on the way up. Sheehan and
Dempsey
are injured. Morley's come back in, and then we've got potentially Sharples, Ahmed, and Conbenny waiting to mop up the available minutes. So we've got a really good blender of experience and youth, I think, in the midfield.
We have a lot of midfielders.
Yeah.
Could we field a full 11 of midfielders, do you think, at this point? If you included the B team as well?
Yes, very probably.
Quite safely. The one issue as such is
Who's going there?
we are a bit light on options at the back. Yeah, Thomason wouldn't be too bad between the sticks, but at the back, it's that kind of thing of, as much as you may love Ricardo Santos and Gethin Jones, neither one of them are getting any younger, and it would appear as though that something is happening whereby you're starting to go a bit sour on them. As a fan, I mean, not in terms of anything else for that matter.
Again, both lads that have put in great shifts for the Wanderers. I don't really know what's going on with Rico. Something seemed to happen at some point, and he just seemed to lose a bit of belief or confidence in himself. He seemed to hesitate more on the ball now. He looks nervy in pressure situations, but at the start of his time, Bolton, that wasn't the case. I remember him at Wembley against Plymouth, and he just seems. They all seem just so relaxed and so chilled, and they all follow his lead as captain. And you contrast that to Wembley, and there was no leadership from anybody, and I don't know whether that is something that has affected him. He looked a little bit sketchy in the game before that against Barnsley. He made a couple of errors that led to goals in that game, and immediately turned around and blamed other people or started shouting at other people. And I don't know. I don't know if it's one of those where because he plays when he's available, he plays. Would we be as well not maybe replacing him, but bringing someone in who we were confident enough in to say, right, well, we can give Rico 2 or 3 weeks to just have a chill and get himself out of the spotlight a little bit. Maybe just take a little bit of pressure on, then bring him back in, because he doesn't. I don't think that, because Everett said not long back, he called him mentally fragile, and we've said similar on air. We've said it on the podcast, but they didn't used to seem like that. When we were charging up League Two, when things it looked like things were going horribly wrong, there was a lot of pressure on the team then. There was no falling apart then. And we stormed up the division, we came up, we went on our cup run, and it just seems that in the past, 12 months or so, there seems to have become a bit of a block. I don't know whether it's confidence or whether it's self-belief or overconfidence, maybe. Like, I can take 3 years with this ball because it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then they get nicked. I don't know. But there's something, and I do think we need another centre back.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's just all those things you talk about there that have kind of fallen apart over the last 6 months, 12 months. I wouldn't say, clearly it's not just him.
No, you can't just blame one player.
But I agree that he's probably the person, aside from probably the manager, he's certainly the player you'd look at, and he's kind of the biggest case in point, isn't he, of this kind of deterioration over the last few months. I think, going back to Gethin Jones, I think he's had a bit of a renaissance in some respects, because everyone, you remember back to that, a couple of years ago, maybe even last season, and he was being gradually phased out, wasn't he? And everyone had kind of decided that he wasn't up to the grade. And to be fair, he probably still isn't up to the grade in terms of when it comes to starting every week.
I think he's a good squad player, mate. I don't agree with that. He's not somebody that when you see him on the team sheet, I never go, oh, Gaff's playing.
Yeah, I think now he's found...
Gaff's playing. It's not like, oh, Gaff's playing. I'm not overexcited that he's playing. I'm not disappointed he's playing. I see him as a solid squad rotation option, and that is.
I think this is where the problem might lie. In that it's fine having the squad players available, but how many players would you look at and think they are bona fide A1 starting 11 material for Bolton Wanderers in 2025?
I mean, it depends how you approach that, I suppose.
I think you've got to put Randall in, haven't you, for one?
I think if you look at, again, it's assessing where we feel we should be, I suppose, because Or are you comparing it to the squad as it is now? Because I think that if you look at it in terms of where we want to be in the league, and you look at the teams that are in the positions where we want to be in the league, just look at them top 2, because that's what the target was at the start of the season, obviously. Now, how many of our players would get into Birmingham and Wrexham's team, who we expect will probably be the top 2?
I mean, Birmingham's maybe not the comparison necessarily.
No, because obviously they've had the
for the sake of this season, probably. It is a fair point. I think we don't necessarily have enough of a bank of information on Randall just yet, but he's clearly a player that's going to be built around, and I think we'll see over the coming
weeks. And Marley looked absolutely every bit a top League 2 player while he was at Wycombe, and we saw some really good stuff from him previously at Wanderers. It was just last season, I don't know what happened. It just didn't seem to click for him at any point last season. But a little bit of a break, a little bit of a change. He's gone over to Wycombe. He's done really well. So we've recalled him.
I think our midfield as a unit, the players we've got available or under contract, is probably our strongest area of the pitch. I mean, goalkeeper, of course, Baxter and Southwood, but midfield, I think we kind of done there. We've got our midfield.
Yeah,
we've
but
got some quality.
I still think we're missing that
horrible,
nasty old midfield.
Yeah, because we have talked about that, haven't we, Benji?
We did it last week.
I do agree with you, but I'm starting to feel that maybe
you can find that mentality.
Is that not? You wonder if maybe Morley. We'll have to wait and see. But I do feel he's kind of sort of fits that profile. But I mean, certainly in terms of in comparison to defenders, obviously we need a serious recruitment drive. I'm probably at the top of the pitch as well. I'm quite happy if we don't bring any midfielders in for the next.
I can get that.
I agree with you. I think I hold it.
But if you brought in a Jerry Taggart-esque defender, then I think that covers the board in that.
Yeah.
Do you want a Jamie Pollock type player as well, minus the wonderful own goal?
I mean, it was so good. You can throw one of them in as long as it doesn't cost us a game.
What would it feel like having him on this? Jamie, as sad as I was to see you go to Manchester City.
I mean, what a debut.
What were you thinking?
So we must get Jamie Pollock on this podcast at some point.
It's a fun theory, isn't it? Having a player in that title-winning team being involved. It's a bit of a shame he didn't last that full Premier League season. I think it could have been. That industry might have ended up helping a little bit.
Yeah, maybe so. He did bits for our club, no doubt about it. He was a great player, Jamie Pollock. Absolutely.
Should we?
We should probably segue back into the current thing rather than Jamie Pollock, but.
We've spoken a good length about transfers that have been done, about what we may want to see. There have been a couple of games. Saturday wasn't all that great, was it?
Saturday was biz.
Nah, I feel we've kind of said everything we want to say about Saturday, haven't we? Saying nothing at all.
Yeah. You say it best. There you go. I bet you didn't think you were going to get a Ronan Keating reference on today's podcast.
I'm sure you did one either last week or a couple of weeks ago.
Is that a thing, Ronan Keating references?
I've actually put him in my show tomorrow, that song. So
there you go. I think
he's infiltrated our minds, hasn't he, with Ronan Keating? So the strange segue in it. Jamie Pollock and Ronan Keating both getting a shot.
What a tag team that would be. Get that booked. But yeah, Rotherham away, it was, we lost 3-1.
Even that was
Dion Charles signed off with a neat little assist, although he probably should have, he definitely should have had a goal as well, because
he should.
There's no way that shouldn't have ended up in the back of the net. And I think had he not have just left, people would have been having a right cry about that, because there's a lot of people that have done a lot of crying about Dion Charles missing chances, and I've always said, when someone's scoring that many goals for you, can't really whinge. And at the same time, if he scored all of his chances, he wouldn't play in the League One. He would probably play in the Premier League if he scored all of his chances, because people would be like, whoa, guy never misses. Well, it is what it is. But it was a very uninspiring performance. First 10 minutes or so we looked okay. Last 10 minutes or so we looked okay. Other than that,
it's the bit in between that went horribly wrong.
Yeah, well, it didn't even go horribly wrong. It was just naff.
Well, it just felt like it went horribly wrong by the fact that all 3 goals were avoidable. It has to be said.
It was one of those things. We didn't drop the ball. It just very slowly, very obviously slipped away from us over a period of time.
I think it was a very within 90 minutes. It was a very neat kind of summation of everything that's been wrong with Bolton this season. Look at the 3 goals and the way in which they conceded. One of them was a long ball straight over the top, which again is initiative that we've seen before. The first one was a defensive mistake on the halfway line, wasn't it? And then obviously Santos gets he's the one who eventually gets penalised and gives the penalty away.
I think the thing that really ticked a lot of people off was the fact that who ultimately decided it was a penalty or not? Was it the referee? Was it the linesman?
I don't care. It was a penalty. It was so blatantly a penalty because yes, he gets his foot on the ball, and maybe when I was 6-year-old, that would have been fine because he touched the ball. That's not what football is now. That's not what the rules say now. And he's not only he's gone through the man to get to the ball, and he's gone because he's gone kind of round him, which is fine if his arms aren't all over his back. And that he's toppled the player over before he's got to the ball. The player's already been bundled over before Santos' foot gets the ball. There's a foul, and then he gets the ball. And in the modern football, that's a penalty. Obviously, it was an honest attempt to get to the ball, so he didn't see red, which was our main debate in the office here. We were watching because we were saying it's definitely a penalty, but is he going to walk for it? And thankfully, he didn't. But it didn't make all that much difference, really.
No. Nice easy penalty for Malik Woods to score. And then probably the highlight of the game was the referee picking up an undisclosed injury, Alan Young.
It was speculated upon by Derek and John that it might have been a dodgy curry.
If that was really what led to the referee suffering and having to be replaced by, I think, the fourth official.
Yes. Yeah,
how long was play held up for?
The old switcheroo.
How long was play held up for? 6-7 minutes, something like that?
It was long enough to find out that apparently it was pie mania in the press room.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. It was,
and the thing is, if you're 1-0 down and you're heading into half-time, I don't care how long injury time is, don't concede again.
Yeah, just be sensible with it. And that's not necessarily just let's play slow and keep hold of the ball. It's like, if there's danger, hoof it clear every now and again. I'm not saying let's be a hoofball team, but just get rid of it. And we saw we'll not go there yet. We'll wait till we get onto that game before we start ranting about them goal kicks last night. But, yeah. It was a very bizarre situation with the referee, to get back to what we're actually talking about. Nobody really understood what was going on. But we do have our resident qualified referee to give us an analysis, and you really didn't seem to have any more idea than us.
It seemed like they were just doing a bit of training exercise, and they'd all gone out to do Bolton v Rotherham, and they're all taking it in turns to have a go in the middle. It was because there was nothing.
He weren't limping about.
He wasn't limping about. He didn't run off to the toilet, or he didn't appear to. So I think his stomach seemed to be all right to me. So it was.
Maybe he just thought, I can't be arsed with this thing. I've done me running for today.
It struck me very much as one of the training games you do, or if you like do an academy game and it's kind of pre-season and they're rotating the players constantly, and you got there with your team of officials, you think, right, we'll do half an hour in the middle each.
Yeah.
And that to me was what it resembled most of all. They're all just having a bit of a go in the middle, having a bit of a practice, getting the minutes in. It was a strange, wasn't it? The fact that it was a highlight of the game, I think, is all you need to know.
But to be fair, who's in charge of the officials for the EFL?
That's a great question. Is it the PGMOL?
Is it still the PGMOL?
I don't think it's the Premier League, is it?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, whatever the equivalent is for the EFL, they don't generally put out press releases to tell people if the referee's sustained an injury that day, like you do with players. The player had got a niggle, they've come off, everyone's always they're all right. No one's got a press conference said, "Oh, Ian, is the referee all right? Do you know what's happened?" Nobody cares. It's the referee. Move on. And it also gives us the ability to speculate wildly as to what could have been the problem. So if you've got any ideas, stick them in the comments down there. And if there's any that make us laugh, we'll give them a shout out next time around. Because honestly, as wild as you want. As wild as you want. Why would
within reason?
No, go wild. We don't have to read them. We don't have to read all of them. If they're wildly unbroadcastable, then obviously we might have a chuckle at them in the comments.
We'll write them down and all them up.
We won't read them out. And we might give you a shout out and just like, too much. But why was the referee substituted? We'll ask you because we don't have a clue, and no one's said a dicky bird.
That thing you mentioned about just hoof it out if the ball comes to you. I get the feeling that's what George Thomason was trying to do. Whether he panicked a little bit and he sliced it.
I think that was a little bit. On the day we were quite angry about that goal, and then in hindsight, looking at it, I think he's very unlucky that it's not only that he's cleared it into someone, that it's just bounced perfectly into somebody else. Yes, we're a little bit slow on the close down after that, but I think that's just one of those goals were. The problem is that we were just giving them so much pressure in that last few minutes of the half that we were giving them opportunities to do that. We were giving them set pieces to make those kind of things happen, and that was where we fell down on the second goal for me. It was just that we weren't taking control of the game.
Yeah, Reece James scoring in the 6 minute of added on time. It made you think, oh, this team talk's going to be even tougher now to have to deal with. Second half comes around. I don't recall a lot happening at either end of the pitch.
I mean, we looked better at the back, but you could say that they'd done their attacking for the day.
Yeah.
We're just like, let's just shut up shop now and make sure that nothing silly happens.
I mean, it's a fair point, Chris.
But then at the end, we had chances. We had chances to steal a point there because obviously we scored the goal. McAtee scored there, but just before that, Dion Charles misses a sitter. I'm sure I remember Collins having a fairly decent chance that he didn't really do anything with.
Yeah, that's ringing a bell.
And you're like, we could have nicked that, and on another day maybe we do, or in another season maybe we did. You know what I mean? When things seem to be rolling for you, and it just wasn't that. And
then the third goal happens. You said it yourself. It was a counter attack that was done.
Ball.
Yeah.
And Bolton do not deal with it at all. There's a good save forced by Nathan Baxter, but it goes and standing on base path and nice and straightforward for him.
I mean, I think you could divide the goals we conceded this season up into three categories. I think those Rotherham goals, probably one from each. The first one's a defensive mix-up or defensive error. The second one's failing to clear your lines, and the third one's a simple long ball over the top, which is, pretty much every goal we've conceded so far this season has been one of those three things. We've got all three in one game. It was just, like I said earlier, it was just a collective, just a nice, tiny little summary of pretty much where we've gone wrong this season. And you said, obviously, Chris, there were 2 goals at half-time to Rotherham. It finished 3-1. So there was a goal at either end, second half. But they were both completely inconsequential, which is, it says it all really. Obviously, they got the third one, then we get the first that, I think flattered us slightly. You think we probably
it was a well-taken goal.
It was a well-taken goal, and it was a lovely little assist by Dion. So, in isolation, lovely little goal. But as you say, it meant naught. But
things got better last night.
Well, before that, of course, despite the fact that the game had 4 goals in it, it wasn't a classic by any stretch. It wasn't the most exciting affair, but. We had some fireworks after the game, didn't we?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Ian Everett's post-match interview with Derek Clark, but also the section with Jack. Of course, we played it on air. Gunning for the players, and we were when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh, this is going to go down like a lead balloon," which is a weird saying because you'd imagine that a lead balloon would go down very well, but. It'd be getting up in the air a bit.
No, I know what you mean. It's one of those where you listen to it. A few weeks back,
But that's like, I liked it in the end. I've not liked it, but I was like, it's about time you had a pop because...
Yes, that was my thinking on air. My thought it was, that's the best post-match interview he's given in absolutely ages.
Whatever he's doing behind the scenes to motivate them and to try and get them to improve, clearly isn't working week in, week out, is it? Because we'll get a decent performance and then we'll go back to being naff.
And then we'll have a decent performance, go back to being naff.
Exactly. So maybe it's just got to the point where he's like, right, well, you know what, I need enough different way of motivating these lads, and I need to go out there and I need to tell the fans that actually, I'm the manager, the buck obviously stops with me. The players have got to take the share of the responsibility for this, and I'm calling them out and I'm saying, you know what, you've got to do better, not just for me, but for the fans. And yes, I can see why it's rubbed people the wrong way, but at the same time, at least he's trying something different. At least he's trying a different way of motivating. And I think people have seen it as, he's arrogant, he's trying to, he's just deflecting, it's not my fault, I don't think that's what he's doing at all. I think it's just an attempt to motivate the players in a different way by saying, right, I've called you publicly now, either get out there and prove me wrong and let's get this show back on the road,
or I'm done.
Or we're all done. Or, great deal. Because the thing is, whenever Ian Everett stops being the manager of Bolton Wanderers, if we don't get promotion this year, we all expect that at the end of the season he will not be the manager anymore if that promotion's not been achieved, because that was the target from the beginning of the season. That's what Ian said, that's what the board said, that's what the players said. That was the understanding. I think he will be here till the end of the season, or until the playoffs are now mathematically unachievable, and then they'll maybe they'll make the call then. But if a new manager comes in, is he going to want to just continue on with all of Ian Everett's players, or is he going to go, right, well, let's have a look? So if Ian Everett goes, a lot of the players that he's saying, look, come on, I'm calling you out now, they're probably going to go as well. I think there'll be a high turnover of players if we get a new manager at the end of the season, because he won't necessarily want to take this group of players. He will want to put his own stamp on it, and of course there'll be players that stick around. But you don't know who they'll necessarily be, and so if you're a player at this moment in time who wants to continue to be playing for Bolton Wanderers and wants to play for us next season, then get your ass into gear and keep the manager his job, because that's probably the best bet you've got of still being here next season.
You're professional footballers. You have to take responsibility. You don't chuck your toys out at the pram at the first sign of trouble.
No.
And I think I've said it off air in some capacity or other. It feels as though a few of the players are not playing for him right now. Which begs the question, what are you doing at Bolton Wanderers Football Club?
Yeah, and I've seen, and we know what happens when a manager loses the dressing room, but I've seen enough evidence over the past few games to show that he's not lost the dressing room. Maybe he's lost a couple of players. Maybe that plays into the fact that Dion's on the way out. But maybe not, that speculation, but he's clearly not lost everybody if he's even lost a few. Because when they do go out there and we get the good results, it's quite obvious that they're playing for him. So I don't get it. It's so inconsistent. It's not that they're just rubbish all the time. And my liking, my positive kind of outlook on him calling out the players isn't like me making excuses for Ian Everett or saying, I'm the biggest Ian Everett fan in the world. I just think that that's what he was trying to do. And while things aren't going great at the moment, I think you've got to remain a little bit pragmatic and just give the opportunity, because he's clearly not going anywhere. So shouting about it all the time isn't going to do anything, and actually the negativity is probably hurting the team on the field. So let's just get behind him until it's done, and either it'll turn around and we'll go up this season, or we'll start next season with a new manager. That's the way I think it'll be. So let's just see it through and just see what happens and do our best to get behind him, because whoever is the manager and whoever is wearing the shirt, it's always that badge, and it's always our team. And I don't want to go into games, I'm not one of those people that goes into games thinking, I hope we lose this because X, Y and Z might happen. I want us to win every single game.
I think if I was around a couple of fans that were saying, I hope we lose this, I'd be tempted to go, would you be so kind as to try to justify yourself, please? If you're a Bolton Wanderers fan, why are you saying stuff like that?
I don't get it, and I know sometimes it does throw away comments and like, we've just lost this, and I've done it myself, because I remember years and years and years ago we played Hull on the last day of the season, and if Hull beat us, then Newcastle went down and Hull stayed up. And I remember going to the game that day. We were safe. It was a dead rubber for us.
I think I was at that very game.
And I went to that game, and I said to one of my mates before the game, I said, I won't be that bothered if we didn't win this game. If it meant that they stayed up and Newcastle went down, because that'd be funny, wouldn't it? Newcastle going down. Oh, massive club like Newcastle.
You did get.
And we did get. And I remember when they equalised, I wasn't even like, because it wasn't like a man. It didn't mean anything to us as a game.
Rather unfortunately for his name, it was Danny Shisu's fault, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. But if we had lost that game, I'd have still been like, lost to Hull. I never want to see us lose a game. And I want to see us win every game, really. And if we'd have won that game, and it hadn't have resulted in Newcastle going out, I wouldn't have been like fuming. I'd have been like, well, it doesn't,
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Ian Everett point, I did agree with the sentiment of what he said. Like you said, I don't think it's the first time either, really, that he's made that point. It's the strongest he's made that point.
Yeah.
But it's not the first time he's made it. I think it was
a responsibility thing a few times.
Huddersfield at home. We lost 4-0, and he obviously called the players that responded and went on a 5-game unbeaten run, something like that. Called them out when we lost to Stockport 5-0, didn't he? And obviously went and got
they won in the EFL
7 points from 9 games in the league.
Then they ended up beating Blackpool. Then it was the draw with Cambridge, and
they beat Mansfield.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's a couple of times in our lowest points this season. He's taken this approach, not quite as forcefully, but he's taken this approach, and they have responded. Obviously, only for things eventually to get worse again. But we won last night. The first opportunity the players had to go out and change something and make amends to what happened on Saturday, and they went out and did it, won the game, got through to the next round of the Virtu Trophy. So it doesn't come across well. And obviously a lot of other fans on various platforms, social media, were ridiculing him for it. A lot of our own fans were ridiculing him for it. But I do agree with the sentiment, and it's not the first time he's done it. And the times he's done it before, he has seen a bounce. He has seen a reaction, and we saw it again last night when we beat Lincoln. To an extent, wasn't a classic.
Wasn't a great performance, but we scraped to win over the line. We're in the next round of the cup. Is there much more you can say about last night?
Well, we're 2 games from Wembley now, aren't we? Which is that's another argument that you never would use. And I think it's something we said last night, didn't we, on air? We've got an interesting relationship with this tournament because 2 years ago it was massive when we won it. It was huge. And people can rewrite history and say, oh, it's only the EFL trophy. Yeah. But at the time, we were all absolutely buzzing, and it was brilliant. Last season, we kind of took the view that, it would have been nice to win it, but it was far from the priority. We were not talking about Blackpool won penalties in the quarters, and nobody really batted an eyelid because we were still doing well in the league, and that was a priority, and obviously that didn't quite work out. This time around, again, I think it's very much the kind of feeling that we've won this once, we don't really want to be wasting our time with it again. But the fact that we can, get ever closer to a game at Wembley, while a lot of the fans would argue that's not a priority. And
it's not the priority.
If you're within that camp as well, I think if you're the players and you know that you're 2 games from Wembley, maybe after the quarterfinals, 1 game from Wembley, in a season that's been quite desperate and quite doom and gloom. It's an opportunity to inject a bit of positivity. And whether ultimately that trophy's the be-all and end-all, or whether it's a priority, which it clearly isn't, it's still an opportunity to turn the ship round and bring a bit of positivity. And for me, that's got to be the priority. Whether the trophy is a massive deal or not is a different question. It's kind of very context-based, isn't it? 2 years ago, it meant a huge amount. Last season, it didn't really. This season, while being the EFL Trophy champions isn't what we want really, it's sort of not what we're chasing really this season. It's an opportunity to kind of change the narrative and turn the tide. So that for me is why it's quite an important competition this year. I know other people would probably disagree, but I think quite a lot rides on it because obviously we won last night. We hope that's going to be the start of a series of wins. And if we get to the quarters and the semis, which you pointed out, Chris, could well even be back-to-back weeks. Within a week of each other, we could win 2 games that tournament and be going to Wembley. And then suddenly, you don't know what the mindset's going to be and what that's going to do to the performance. So it's worth sticking around in this competition just for that potential, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Especially, in the position we're in now, I think we need every little bit of positivity we can. So, absolutely. Let's just see it. Go as far as we can in the tournament.
The draw is being done this Saturday in the build-up to Sky's coverage of Cardiff Swansea. And Bolton with ball number 1. It's still regionalised until the semi-finals, don't ask. Bolton will play one of Rotherham United, Bradford City, or Port Vale and Wrexham. And the reason Pete made a mention of
Port Vale and Wrexham? Port Vale That's a bit unfair, isn't
it? Basically, Port Vale and Wrexham, they haven't played their tie just yet.
Fair enough.
Weirdly, it's been scheduled for the week when the quarterfinals are meant to be taking place. So that's why I ended up saying, imagine Bolton do get drawn against one of Port Vale or Wrexham.
They should make them play them the same night.
Well, it would give Bolton a tiny bit of an unfair advantage.
And that's why I want it.
So theoretically, if that was to happen, then I'd imagine they'd schedule it for the week after. And if Bolton are successful in that quarter-final side, that means that the semi-finals, they're scheduled to begin the week commencing the 17th of February. And there is that possibility that Bolton, should they be successful in the quarter-final tie, might have to play the semi-final 1 week later. Although the one upside is the final's not until the 13th of April, right before Easter.
Yes.
So there is a bit of a gap to prepare for that and to get plenty of points on the league's standings as well.
Yeah, of course. And, yes, the league is the priority. No doubt about it. And things really need to get going in that respect. But I don't think that the point we're at when you're looking at it, it's, 3 games. It's not adding a massive amount to the schedule, is it really? And for the positivity you could kick off from it, and where that could potentially take you, why not? Have a run at it.
And just think, it's nowhere near as congested as it was last week, where for the first 4.5 months of 2024, I felt like this was my second home on a Tuesday practically.
Yeah.
I was worn out. I don't mind telling you, I was worn out by the time the Shrewsbury game came.
Oh yeah, I'm not
was done and
surprised.
dusted. I thought, oh, this is too much. I've been doing Saturday, Tuesday for weeks on end. But then I had it pretty easy compared with the players and the coaching staff and everyone involved at Bolton Wanderers football.
Oh yeah,
so I don't really know what
they had to run
about. But it was that thing where I think it ended up taking too much of a toll, and maybe that was what ultimately cost them in the end when it came to automatic promotion.
I think as well with the automatic promotion, there was that key point, that key point in the season where we had loads of games and loads of injuries, all key injuries as well. First choice goalkeeper, best centre back, first choice striker, who ironically is now not at the club, as of today, and our best midfielder, all out at the same time.
Yeah.
You can't.
You genuinely can't win, can you?
How can show me any team in the country that would not struggle to deal with that? Even your Man Cities would struggle to deal with having the best player in every single position out. All right, in every single traditional line of the formation out. You'd be like, well, of course they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
And we did, because we had 1,500 games in that 6 weeks that they were all out for, or whatever it was. Yeah. Obviously, we didn't have 1,500 games. I know.
No.
A couple of weeks ago, I made a silly exaggeration on the radio, and somebody was very annoyed with my claims that George Thomason had once played like Prime Perlo for 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Because whenever I say someone played Prime Perlo, it's an exaggeration. I've said that about me on five-a-side pitch, and if you see me play five-a-side, no.
I'm not sure sarcasm translates very well on radio.
No.
I think with the visual cues,
maybe.
We know you were joking just then, but on radio, maybe someone gets lost in the ether somewhere.
I need to put more of a sarcastic tone.
Yeah, you need to work on that.
Or do I really? Yeah, something like that,
Yeah, that's perfect. That's poetry emotion.
There you go.
We've been working on the chemistry
quality
for 4.5 years.
I know, yeah. We've only took a couple of breakfast shows. But yeah, it wasn't a classic by any stretch of the imagination, but we're through, and let's crack on and see what we can build from that.
Yeah, we're into the part of the competition now, and I think, Chris and I were talking about this last night, weren't we?
The proper bits now, innit?
We are.
Yeah,
I mean, the competition, it very much has three distinctive phases to it. I think the group stage at the start of the season, it's a bit of a pain, but you rotate your squad, don't you? And it gave Sharples Ahmed a run out, it gave the likes of Luke Matheson a run out. Southwood got his first few games, McAtee got his first goal for the club.
It was good as well for George Johnston, because lest we forget, he was trying to get back up to scratch again, having been out for the entirety of last season.
So the group games at the early stage of the season when they're played, they offer that chance just for players who are on the fringes, in the league, to get those minutes, and it offers a clear benefit, I think, in that regard. We've just reeled off a number of examples there where that's the case. You're then kind of in the last 32, last 16 stage where everyone's thinking, oh, it's a waste of time, this, why are we bothering? We're better off out of this. And then once you start getting to the quarters onwards and you can see the Wembley Arch, suddenly it has an extra bit of importance again. So we've weathered those two rounds, the early knockouts, where
we won it, nobody cared when we were
exactly.
But by the time we're going over to Aki for that semi-final, everyone was buzzing for it. We've got to win this. We've got to win this. Wembley 1 game away. And when we did get to Wembley, everyone was absolutely over the moon.
Yeah,
it's a great day out. It's a great thing for everyone to go and be able to do, and it can really kickstart a feel-good factor, and we're in a position where we could really do the feel-good factor right now.
Yeah, but we are into those final knockings now, where we've kind of come through the bit of, nobody cares about this competition, to the point where it actually does start to feel like it matters a bit. Yeah. So I'm hoping, that in itself is hopefully going to be, give a bit of a lift. We're not just kind of, shuffled out in the last 32 or last 16 or whatever, where nobody really notices or cares. We're kind of in the business end now, and it's another opportunity alongside the league.
Yeah, it's like you say with the three phases, it's like the who cares, that'd be nice. I want it.
And then, I'd love it to win this.
It's a proper speedometer, isn't it? The closer you get, it's like how much you care about it. But, yeah.
And admittedly, there has been one very bright spot, again, pertaining to the women.
Yes, another win in dominant style for Bolton Wanderers ladies.
It was a bit of a shame that nobody had the chance to see it, unfortunately, because they had made the announcement, it has to be said, on Saturday afternoon that they weren't going to be able to play at Abbey Coles ground, so they had to move it behind closed doors at Lostock, and Fleetwood Town Wren's reserves were absolutely fine with it.
Got the game on at the end of the day, didn't it?
Yeah, and it ended up being quite a fruitful outing for the Wanderers again.
It did indeed.
Just at 9 goals, wasn't it, this time?
Yeah, a bit of a modest return.
Fair Knox banging 4 goals in. Nishai Gordon getting 3. And Charlotte Tyers and Madison Harmon chipping in with a goal apiece each. I mean, you can't really go wrong with that, can you?
We must be dominating the top scorers charts.
Oh, no, yeah.
Quite safe.
By the end of the season, it could be quite a fierce in-house competition.
Yeah, it could.
I think this is why Fair Knox was such a pivotal capture. Because you get her from second tier championship. She's dropped down, 4 or 5 levels to come to Bolton Wanderers.
She's banging in goals by the 4.
Well, there's that, but sometimes you just need that one player to come in, and instantly, whatever standards were kind of here, quite high already, all of a sudden they shoot up.
Yeah.
And you think, if she's willing to drop down, we've got to climb to be able to match her expectations and standards.
You know, it's the old adage of if you really want to get better at something, you do it with people that are better than you, and you know, you try and attain to their standards, and that is the kind of quality player you want to be setting the standards, I suppose.
And understandable that we're not doing this as a knock for the other players. All I'm saying is that thanks to Fair Knox, I think the reason why they have been so effective, besides Miles doing what he's doing with the coaching and the managing, is Fair Knox being that one player in particular who is helping to elevate every single player around her.
Yeah, and it gives you that opportunity to, you know, when you're around a player that is from a few levels above, you're going to learn from that, and all the players are going to learn from that. But I bet the younger ones in the group would be absolutely I would hope, trying to grasp as much as they possibly can. You know, get every drop of information you can out of it, get every bit of advice you possibly can, and use that to try and help yourself become the best player you can, and hopefully can the entire team right up the divisions, so we can enjoy a lovely little run that way.
Although it does take a back seat for this week because they're looking forward to the Cup this weekend, the Lancashire FA Women's Challenge Cup. They're in the quarter-final stage and they are going over to Broxted Park, the home of, I hope I get this right, Ashton Athletic, taking on Wigan Athletic ladies and girls.
But only a smaller boo, because they're not actually affiliated to Wigan Athletic.
No, bizarrely, there's a Wigan Athletic women's team who are away to Ratcliffe Women in the same competition. How bizarre would that be if you get the two Wigan teams playing each other in the semi-final?
Well, we won't know, will we? Because we're gonna slap these girls down, and
careful how you say that, Jimmy.
Sorry, our girls are gonna slap these girls down.
Slightly better,
and not slightly, and then they're gonna march on and
win the whole thing.
Yeah, win the whole thing and taking out the other Wigan in the process.
We'll do a cup double, men's and women's this year.
Well, they might end up doing a treble on that, because not only have they got the competition in the Lancs FA, they've got the obvious division to contend with. And there'll be the League Cup competition. It's the Alliance and Design Print Cup that they'll also be participating in. I think the second round's a few weeks away, but once that resumes, they'll turn their attention to that. Whenever it's not a league, game. And here's hoping that Bolton Wanderers women in the first full season have 3 trophies to show for it by the end.
All the cups for the girls. That's what we want. All the cups. We're going to be looking back at this shirt in a few years' time and thinking, remember when all our trophies were in that?
Yeah, for the women's, not for the men's. Which we...
Well,
feels a little bit further away, doesn't it, with the men? But it's still 2 games from Wembley.
Yeah, 2 games from Wembley.
We'll wait and see.
Cambridge then?
Have it. Let's have it. Yes. I know they got a point against us last time, didn't they, with 10 men. Wasn't our finest hour.
No.
But we've not had many of them this season, to be honest.
But we have, our last league game we stunk. So hopefully it'll translate to the next league game. We'll be we'll be all right. We'll get the points.
Yes.
Well, I hope that doesn't mean that the Tuesday game against Charlton will be a pile of rubbish.
There is that too. Yeah, we don't.
You can choose one, Chris. You can only play well in Cambridge or Charlton.
Look, hopefully this is going to be the start of a kick on now. He's come out. He's called the players out. I hope it works. If it doesn't, he's going to look like a chump. But that's the risk you take, and I think that realistically, if I was in Ian Everett's position, and I knew that this was my last roll of the dice, really, to get this team promoted, I'd try everything. And if things weren't working, I'd be throwing anything at the wall and seeing if it stuck towards the end. To just be like, this everything I've been working for so long that I've had almost within my grasp is now slipping away. I need to try and sort it out. And the fact that he's trying things, we'll see. Hopefully it'll lead to a run. And if we can get into a run, then everything changes, because that's what the playoffs are like. Teams in much worse positions than we're in right now have turned things around, got into the playoffs and gone up. There's nothing to say it can't happen. I did say that to my dad earlier on, and my dad was like, yeah, well, I can't see it. And I was like, well, yeah, but at this moment in time, neither can I. But I don't think that any team that has that run and gets into the playoffs and then goes up sees it coming.
We're still early enough as well that you can't rule it out.
No,
either.
That's true.
And we could be much further down the division and you still couldn't rule it out. There have been teams that have been in relegation battles that have surged into playoff places right at the death. Look how late, I mean, they weren't in a relegation battle as such, but look how late into the season Oxford got into the playoff last season and ended up winning it. There's no people well, we've got to finish third or fourth, but who cares? Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, the same position. You are in the playoffs. Who cares? Well, it's better if you finish higher up. Is it? Ask Oxford United that. Ask us that. We finished third and we're beaten by the team that finished sixth at Wembley. It doesn't matter whether you finish third, fourth, fifth or sixth. As long as you're in the playoffs, you might as well just call that entire band third, because that's all that people care about. There's no extra pride in finishing third than sixth. You're in the playoffs. The target is promotion. Who cares? If you finish third and you get knocked out in the semi-final, and fourth and sixth are in there, or second and sixth, fourth and sixth are in there at the final. You finished above both of them. Well, there's no prizes for that. They're at Wembley. So I really don't care. First and second, yeah, obviously another kettle of fish. But for the playoff place, it's no difference. As long as you're in it, and then it's just everyone starts from scratch. And feel free to get involved as well if you've got any comments on everything that we've said tonight. Give us a shout in the comments. We'd love a bit of interaction. Do like, share and subscribe if you enjoyed watching. And we will try and get you plenty more Behind the Whites content. We're looking at getting some more interviews in. Of course, Miles was a cracking interview. You can see that in the archive here on YouTube. And we hopefully will be on Spotify very, very soon. I know I keep saying this, but we will get around to doing it. But until we do, and for long after, don't forget to stay behind the whites.